Solo: A Star Wars Story is out in theaters right now. It's the story of Han Solo before he became the famous Han Solo from the original George Lucas trilogy that came out in the late 70s, early 80s. This story begins the journey of who he was before to how he became the selfish, charming, pilot in the Star Wars saga. This story basically is Han Solo, how he becomes a smuggler, how he becomes a con artist and he gets hooked up with all of this, stuff with like the Empire or the startings of the Empire and, how he becomes someone who operates, I guess, on the fringes or the more questionable side of the space universe in Star Wars. And, I think it's supposed to be his journey on how he becomes that cynical, I'm only out for myself character whom we see in the original trilogy. Now, in short, I do think this is a very fun, entertaining movie. It has flaws, but I do think overall it's a good movie. But it's not necessarily a very good Han Solo movie, and I will explain. Alden Ehrenreich, who plays Han Solo, does a good job playing the main character, but the character doesn't seem to me, and I don't think to a lot of other people, he doesn't seem like Han Solo. Now, what I mean by that, even though this movie is supposed to be talking about Han Solo in his early days, and maybe he's different when he's younger than when he becomes a bit older, he doesn't seem, the Han Solo in this movie just doesn't seem, in terms of the way he thinks or looks at the world, anywhere close to the Han Solo that we see in A New Hope that came out, I think, in 1977. Now, this movie is successful. I think this was supposed to be the first of a Han Solo series. Maybe they do 2 or 3 Han Solo movies. And so maybe their plan is by the end of Han Solo 2 or Han Solo 3 for him to become, at the end of that movie, psychologically and mentally the character we see in A New Hope when he meets, Luke and Leia and stuff. But as of now, the Han Solo in this movie just seems like a completely different person totally from the beginning of the movie to the end. Now, if you've seen the trailers for the Han Solo movie, you've probably seen there was a line where Woody Harrelson said something like, everybody you know will betray you. Or if you don't expect anything from anybody, you'll be okay when they betray you, or something like that. This movie does have people who betray Han Solo who are close to him. And the way it's written, I think those are supposed to be the series of events that hurt him and make him more cynical. But the way that things play out in this movie and the way that everyone acts, it never really seems to register that Han Solo becomes that jaded or cynical by the end. He still seems exactly the same way at the end than he does in the beginning. And that's of an idealistic, good-natured guy who wants personal gain but is really nice. And that's nothing like the self-interested, completely self-interested, I'm only out for myself character we get in A New Hope. So the biggest problem with Solo: A Star Wars movie is that it's a good movie about a guy, but it doesn't seem like it's a good movie about Han Solo. And part of that, you might say it's because Alden Ehrenreich does not look like Han Solo. I mean, Harrison Ford. But it's mainly because the way this movie is written or directed, they wanted to make it like the softer side of Han Solo. And Han Solo, I think, doesn't really necessarily have that big of a soft side, at least not in its early days. So I think they might have goofed up by making this, by giving this movie the Disney factor, making it sweetening Han up. They're giving him an old girlfriend from his past and things to make him soft. But Han Solo, I think, this movie should have been a lot grittier, I think, given the period in Han Solo's life and what it's about. Now, in the early part of the movie, in the middle, there are some slow points. The movie doesn't really, it's very fast paced, but there do seem to be some points in the movie that don't really seem to be there or that it's trudging along. But it does pick up by the end. And, by the last half hour or 45 minutes, the movie is everything does seem to come to a conclusion that is satisfying. There are a lot of, space chases, of course, which you would expect in a Han Solo movie, that I think are thrilling. There was the famous Kessel Run. It does, to me, harken back to the old space chases from the original George Lucas movies. I thought that they and director Ron Howard successfully recaptured that magic. Now, all of the actors in the movie do a fine job, but if you were wondering whether or not Donald Glover's, Lando would be so great he would take the movie away from Han Solo and the other characters, that doesn't happen. I felt that his Lando, while good and an interesting part of the movie, I felt that it was still Han Solo's movie. He didn't threaten to compete or take anything away from Alden Ehrenreich's Han Solo in terms of who is the more awesome character on screen. Solo, a Star Wars movie, is a decent, fun action movie, but it's maybe the first Star Wars movie that doesn't have that big, epic larger-than-life feel. This one is still good, but not hugely good, at least in terms of scope or the impression it leaves on you, which is what the other Star Wars movies were at least attempting to achieve. They didn't all achieve it, because, there's pushback against The Last Jedi and the George Lucas prequels. A lot of people didn't like those, but you could tell when people made those movies that they were going for this larger-than-life Star Wars kind of aesthetic, even when they failed. This movie, while good, it doesn't seem like they were going for that feel at all. It just seems like kind of a standard action movie. A good one, but not, one of the great Star Wars films. But thank you for watching. I appreciate your viewership. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to the channel because I appreciate your viewership. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.